get to there.
There we go.
So we're recording.
Yep.
So it's 7:03 and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And also to suspend the procedural bylaw for the rest of the meeting. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Morton and seconded Dean Grant, Councillor Grant. So part of just the opening comments, I just wanted to mention that there is a book event happening. Hang on just one second. There's a book event happening on June the 10th. And I just passed around copies. We might be able to post it on the website. If not, it's on the history website. And just so you know, this is a woman who just wrote a book, Marilyn Simons. I've spoken to her quite often. And she is authoring, well, she has authored a book called Women Watching. And it's all about Louise de Caroline Lawrence, who was a very famous Calvin resident who lived on Pimsey Bay. And someone who should all be somewhat familiar with. It's our one big celebrity in the township. So if you have a chance on June the 10th, it's free admission with light refreshments, and it's down in Callender at the Callender Museum. So something that 1 till 3 o'clock in Callender. Anyway, moving on. Any written disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest to declare? No.
No.
All right, so,
Mr. Mayor?
yeah. We need to do the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please?
I'll move it.
And a seconder? So we're just approving the agenda as presented. All in favor?
All right.
That is carried. All right, the next item on the agenda is item 4, the approval of the previous meeting minutes. And we've all had a chance to read those through. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Manson and seconded by Councillor Morton. And any questions or comments on the previous agenda minutes? No? All right, all in favor? And
All right.
carried. All right, the next item on the agenda is business arriving from the previous meeting. So the first item is the land surplus bylaw review and report. So that will come from you.
Yeah.
All right.
And then, well, nothing right now, Mr. Mayor and Council. That's due on June 13th, so we will be aiming to have something to you by then.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the fire chief recruitment update. This is a verbal update from the CAO.
Yeah, again, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We've had a bit of struggle with some timelines in terms of getting ourselves going because of all the other items that we've been dealing with. That said, I'm anticipating that we're going to be able, I'm in the process of actually reviewing some non-biased questions, so we can actually have a good interview process. And that we will likely by the end of the week, we will have those questions formalized, and we'll be able to begin that within the next week or two.
Any discussion?
Well, it's been, again, I'm on the fire department. Their boys at the last council, not our council, the previous council had recommended that we have some input. So the fire officers have asked me to ask you to meet with them at some point to get their input or their side.
Yeah.
And whether they meet every Thursday night and anytime there's a fire, of course.
Mhm.
up to your schedule.
Okay. I don't know if I'll be able to make this Thursday night, but probably the following one, we should be able to handle.
I can report back to them that I passed it on.
Yeah, no, fair. Thank you very much. And I intended actually on meeting them.
Yeah.
As a team, on the Thursday night, just haven't got there yet.
Excellent. Any other comments, questions? No?
There's a supply of candidates that are,
Two individuals have submitted their interest. So we will be reviewing that and taking the appropriate steps.
Somebody asked me last week if the application process is closed.
It was closed on, if I remember correctly, it was April 30th. If I remember.
It was, yes,
Yeah.
April the 30th. All right, so we'll move on to the next item.
And again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of procedural bylaw review in process, one of those, shifting of priorities and so on as we pivot a few times, but certainly in process, and we'll be coming up with some solutions on that.
Does everyone understand the procedural bylaw process and what we're looking at doing? Yes? Comfortable process? The procedural bylaw is very important because it defines the way we run a meeting in council. So you have a procedural bylaw that you have to follow. There was a very old procedural bylaw from, I believe, 98, which was the one that was used in town, in the township. But there was a new one introduced in September, I believe. It might have been August or September. And it had a 6-month mandatory review date on it. So we are at that 6-month time that we have to do that review. And your procedural bylaw is important because what it does is it allows for the kind of meetings that you hold in council. So if you wanted to have a meeting of the whole, for example, that has to be in your procedural bylaw that is part of the way that you conduct business. And so that's what Real's been working on. That's what the review is all about. Any questions, comments? No? All right, so moving on to legislative matters, there are no consent agenda items tonight, but bylaws, we are just having the first reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
We missed something, Mr. Mayor. So first, two things. So I just a resolution.
Oh, yes, the delegation for FJ.
Just one before that, resolution to receive the business arising from previous meetings,
Okay,
and then the FG.
okay, I don't have that one on my,
No, it's not typically in sequence.
all right,
So I'll read the resolution for number 5, Mr. Mayor.
please.
That council receive the business arising from the previous meetings.
Okay, a mover and a seconder for that? No? I need a mover and a seconder?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Oh,
I'll vote.
Okay.
sorry.
And Mr. Manson has seconded. So we're just
Receiving.
receiving the business arising from previous meetings. All in favor? And that is carried. So now the delegation for the request for donation from FJ McElligott Secondary School.
Correct. So I'll speak on their behalf, Mr. Mayor, in terms of FJ's request was for a donation of whatever amount, I suppose, because they don't even specify anything. And this is the part that's a little bit uncertain for me, is whether or not, when they say a brief description of the award for our selection committee and graduation program, that's the part I'm not totally familiar with. So I was hoping maybe council knew, or members of council knew, and or historically, it doesn't look like we gave specifically to FJ, but it seems like we gave some to different programs in the past, which was in the range of $100.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that's something that the council wants to consider tonight. And perhaps we make it fairly vague as to let them decide where to provide the donation to. So I'll leave that up to you guys to consider.
Right, do we have a mover?
Yeah, so, yeah, so we could receive it, but I think we need to approve like what they can.
All right,
For
so
add to the resolution.
discussion?
I have some comments as if,
Go ahead. Grant?
I just, I believe there's a, bit of a historical context here that I'd like to try to provide, and I know that in the past, and I agreed with this method in the past, is we generally didn't. It was, I suppose it was uncommon for council to give donations to organizations, especially organizations that are physically outside the municipality. And I think I would be cautious, not that I don't support what they're doing, it's fantastic, but just be cautious because it is tax ratepayer money, and there are many organizations that give to, and it's hard to prioritize which ones deserve our attention and not. And so my feeling is that we would I would favor for that specific reason. Just that it's hard to balance out who to give to and who not to give to, and to be frugal with taxpayers' money. I like to necessarily support the motion on that.
Okay, other discussion? Go ahead.
Traditionally, the Mattawa and Area Police Service Board gives $100 to each of the schools on an annual basis, and that's in our charter. So, or the last year's minutes. So I don't know what this one's for, and
This is for the graduating class, it's as in the agenda, so
that's what ours is for too.
right.
But then this is like Councilor Grant just mentioned, it's kind of ambiguous as to what they're looking for. And then, but I support it. I mean, it's our local unit high school. But then, aren't we given to the other, and that'll also what the Catholic high school's name is. But the other one, why aren't they getting it too? The police service corps, where it gives one to each school.
Okay. Any other comments?
Well, that's a good point, Bill. Councilor Morton, do we give a donation to the other schools as well? There are 4 schools in Mattawa, and probably students from Calvin Township attend each one of them. I think traditionally there has been an award, but I don't know how that's being distributed. If each school gets similar amount, or do they ask? The only request we've seen so far is from FJ McElligott. So I'm not, I think if it's traditionally, I think you raised a good point that do we do it for the other schools as well? I'm in favor of it. I think it's a token amount, really. But is that a good reason to do it?
That was my initial thought too. It's, it's a relatively small amount, but yet we still haven't got our good books in order with good reports to understand our financial situation. So that makes, non-mandatory spends, puts them in question. And again, just there are, like Councilor Grant said, there's many different organizations, and it is ratepayer money. So it's, it's not fine just to hand out here because they asked, but I think I would be happier if we had good financial books to go and understand our financial position before we start making say non-mandatory spends, even at the small level.
Excellent comments, everybody.
To expand on that, our students go to those schools,
Right.
but does Papineau give money to them, and does Matawan, does the other jurisdictions within that school board. And if we're joining in with them at $100 a crack, great, but we don't have enough information in that letter.
All right. So then I would suggest that we either defer this just until the next meeting, until we can find out what other donations are necessary. In principle, it doesn't seem like a bad idea, but there seems to be a little bit of concern here that we can bring it to a vote and or we can defer. Can I have any comments about those two choices? Bring it to a vote or defer?
I'd recommend defer.
Dean?
I'm not
Yeah.
interested. I'm not
Pardon me?
interested. I just said I'm not interested in deferral. I'd like to try to deal with the matter, but it's just my opinion.
Okay.
I think that the magnitude of it is pretty small, so we could probably try to deal with it.
Okay. All right, so then bring it to a vote. Is that what the consensus is? All right, so then we'll bring to a vote the idea of making a donation of $100 to FJ High School. All right, so all in favor?
All right.
So it is 2 for and 2 against. So that is defeated. Myself and Councillor Latimer for, and Bill and John against, so the.
Also against.
Oh, you're against too, so it's 3, yeah, but it's still defeated. Anyway, it's still defeated anyway.
Yeah, we could clarify those votes. It's hard electronically, but
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Should look in. I can see a lot of feedback no matter what we did on that.
Mhm.
All right, moving on to legislative matters and the consent agenda items, which there are none, and then to bylaws 7.2. This is just the first reading of the confirmatory bylaw. We all know that that will be read at the end of the meeting as well. So this is just the first and second reading. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Manson and Councillor Morton moved and seconded, and all those in favor? Well, yes, we'll call it for vote, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, all those in favor of the confirmatory bylaw?
All right.
Now we're moving on to item 8, administrative matters, and the first item is item 8.1, Blanchard's Landing and Lake Talon. We have lots of information here to move forward. Should we discuss this first, Riel?
Perhaps let me read the CAO report, and then you can discuss the specifics about the request, and then we can get that discussion. Again, thanks, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the request that was provided, just to give a little bit of historical background, there was a request made by Mr. Doug LaPlante, and the request was attached as indicated. Mayor Gould attended the meeting on April 25th. And there was detailed reports provided also. The request of the report essentially is that the municipality of Catlin and Bonfield appoint a member of council and staff to the nonprofit group that is intended to be formed. At the regular council meeting on April 25th, council passed a resolution to have Mayor Gould attend those future meetings. Becoming part of the nonprofit group may be of concern, as it may contradict the Municipal Act. The benefit of the municipality is somewhat unclear, and further immediate concerns in relation to liability and risk and operational issues of the dock for the municipality of Calvin would have to be researched and considered. So in light of those concerns, recommendation is to allow staff adequate time to research the matter and provide some guidance and recommendations on the concerns brought forward.
All right, All right, so I'm just gonna open this up to discussion. I have a lot of information on this as well, but discussion, interest, comments? Not yet? All right, so that, just to make things very clear, there is a meeting in Bonfield in 2 days, which I will attend and report what council has decided tonight. And what this whole meeting is about is Blanchard's Landing and a group of 5 or 6 goals that they have. One being the replacement of the dock, which if anybody has taken the time to go and look at the dock, it's a mess. 2, which is to dredge the lake, because as the water levels drop, the place that you launch the boats is now mud instead of water. So it becomes difficult to launch a boat. Number 3, to not only dredge the lake, but to dredge Sparks Creek and spend some time preparing for the future so that new silt isn't being brought into the bay. And number 4, to control the water levels in Lake Talon to provide a better habitat for birds and nesting loons, etc., on the lake because of the rapidly changing water level, but also because the rapidly changing water level leaves a lot of docks out of water. The benefit that they're talking about is for residents in Calvin and Bonfield and residents from outside who want to use that as the only access to Lake Talon, the only public access. The other benefit is for some residents of Calvin and a lot of residents of Bonfield, and even a greater amount of residents in Ulrich Township, which is an unorganized township on the other side of the lake, to be able to launch their boats to gain access to their cottages from that launch point. What they had requested, as our CAO has just pointed out, is that we would become a part of a nonprofit organization. But we have learned that being part of a nonprofit organization where other entities that are not municipalities or government organization contravenes the Municipal Act. Meaning we can form a nonprofit organization, and that nonprofit organization is all municipalities. So for example, the planning board or something like that, that can work out, but it can't work if there's some people that are not government organizations that contravenes the Municipal Act for us to become part of that. So I think what it's all coming down to is they still want to move forward on fixing these issues. And there are a number of issues, as I just mentioned. But the way I see it is that if they form a nonprofit organization and we are not part of that nonprofit, we could still have someone from council attend that meeting, not as that Calvin is part of the nonprofit, but it is as an observer to that meeting and report back to council with recommendations about what they're doing and what they can possibly do. In the agenda package that was in last meeting, there was an expenditure for $100,000 for an environmental impact study. I've just received a message stating that that is being done by Parks Canada now, so that's not one of the expenses that are, going to be coming up. And there are portions of this program that are benefit to people in Calvin. So my recommendation would be following CAO's recommendation that we do not become part of this organization as a nonprofit organization with Calvin involved, but that we tell this group of people that we are willing to support and have somebody from council attend their meetings as a person of support to report back to council. That would be my recommendation. And that's up to council. We can either bow out completely, we can defer it until we can get more information, or we can just agree in principle and tell them that we're willing to have someone attend their meetings. Of course, that could be Mr. Latimer. He's really close. He's really close to the whole situation there, but someone would attend the meetings and then report back to council, be a liaison for council. So discussion.
Well, it's,
Oh, go ahead, John. Sorry, can't see your lips moving there, so you go ahead.
it's Calvin's, Calvin has some ownership of that dock, I believe.
Okay, here's the really strange part. The real, our CEO was asking me that today. The dock is built on the road allowance between Calvin and Bonfield, and a road allowance between two townships is jointly owned by the two townships. So it is half in Calvin and half in Bonfield. However, also that portion of Calvin Township is part of the Mattawa River Provincial Park. And they have the piece of property from the waterfront back. So yes, it's in Calvin, but it's in the provincial park, which is the river park. So yes, it is, to answer your question, some would say, yes, it's half in, and some would say that it's a portion in.
Gotcha. And they haven't been made that, the Mattawa River Park has not been doing the appropriate maintenance.
The Mattawa River Park says that they are not a profit-making park and therefore cannot have any expenditures as far as repairing and maintaining the dock.
If they're not opposed to. Go ahead, Robert. Counselor Latimer.
Go ahead, Councilor Latimer.
I like, your approach, Mayor Gould. I think we have to explore possibility, but without any commitment to see what's happening. I think the idea, how does it benefit Calvin? It benefits the region, and Calvin is part of the region. People from everywhere use it. I would commend Bonfield Township for taking leadership and trying to move this forward. I think it's been stalled for a number of years. And there seems to be, just from reading the background material, there's support and a number of groups who are willing to move it forward. I think it's worth exploring. Again, it would be short-sighted to say, what does it benefit Calvin Township alone? It's a benefit to the region. And it would serve the region as well as Calvin, which is part of the region. That's my take on it. I think if it worked with my schedule, I would certainly be willing to be part of that group. I'd certainly consider it if we decided to move forward with it.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Latimer. Anyone else have any comments?
Short comment.
Is that you said that under the Municipal Act, we're not allowed to be part of it.
No. We can't be a member of a nonprofit organization, but we can have a counselor in attendance at meetings to offer support and report back to council.
That's approved by municipal
Yes, we're not part of the,
committee.
we're not, yes, that's correct.
An invited guest.
In essence, is that correct?
Yeah, I can't answer that 100%. That's why I would need a little bit more time to do homework, but in essence, if we're not gonna be decision makers at the table, in essence, I think we'd be fairly safe there.
Okay, good.
But I did have a short comment.
Is there a method for us to become active? Should funding or some other efforts be required is there any way for us to participate? Should they start down the road and get a plan and get moving? Given it's our dock as well, I
Mhm.
guess, and I think you did say that, I think you may have said it was a kind of a bit of an embarrassment, the state of it.
Yes,
And there's probably a lot of water access, only cottages out there that really, use that.
Mhm.
So, circling back,
so to answer your question, yes, there is a way to be involved without being a voting member of the board. We're there to participate and lend support, but not to vote on issues. We're not a member of that nonprofit, but just like anybody else can ask for a donation, they could ask for a donation. That person could come back to council, bring a request for a donation or whatever back to council. Council could approve that
gotcha,
one item, but just not as part of that board.
I see, thank you.
All right,
Should I read it?
Sorry,
The council received the blank,
I did have one quick comment. Sorry, I was trying to get it in there. I do support this in principle, and I think it's a project and noble. And I support the recommendation of Richard and the CAO as well. So.
all right. Thank you, Councilor Grant. Yes, go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council received the Blanchard Landing and Lake Talon, Talon information. Further, that council agree in principle with the structure. Further, that council agreed to participate in an observer position to allow reporting back to this council, which could be reviewed, reconsidered in the future.
All right. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that motion, please? For that resolution? All right,
I'll second.
Okay.
Who was the first, Mr.
who,
I can move.
all right. That's it. All right, so any last discussion on this motion before we bring it to a vote? No, no? All right, so I'll call this to a vote. All in favor of the resolution as read by the CAO?
I,
Great. So I will report this to the Township of Bonfield at our meeting in 2 days. All right. So we now move on to administrative matters. The municipal restructuring, which also has a CAO report. So good.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just give a little bit of background. All of you, I'm sure, are aware, but municipal restructuring has been in process since late of 2022. This began with the hiring of a new CAO clerk treasurer as of April 24th, 2023. This was furthered by council's adoption of a new org chart that entails organizational restructuring recommended by the CAO at the regular council meeting on May 9th, 2023. Since the adoption of the org chart, management was presented with an application for union representation for its employees. Council and management are committed to a positive work environment, which entails professionalism and communication. Council and management is also focused on transparency, accountability at all levels to ensure operational efficiencies. As management navigates these processes, organizational changes will occur for the overall good of the community of Calvin. Further information will be discussed in closed session further in this agenda. But just purely information, Mayor and Council, and we will be, like I said, discussing a little bit more of that stuff later in the agenda. So the resolution, Mr. Mayor, is that you receive the report relating to the municipal restructuring.
Right, so I have a mover and a seconder on the report. All right, Councilor Morton and a seconder,
I can second.
Councilor Grant. So any discussion on the org chart as presented? No, no discussion? No discussion? Oh, Councilor Grant?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the importance of the CAO had mentioned ensuring operational efficiencies, and to me, there's no secret that last few years there's been struggles in operation of the township in general, and there may be struggles today, but I think it's incredibly important that we're moving forward, and I believe we are. And I want to support that. We continue to ensure operational efficiencies. You know, just to add a couple quick things, you know, working on things that I guess to me the most important thing that we need to work to address and to solve, and I think we are, is same rules for everybody. I think is super important. It's accountability, but the same for everyone. And you know, establishing policies and procedures and you know, operating in a way that is fair, that's reasonable, and you know, ensures efficiency, because the entire focus, the number one priority is the ratepayer and delivering those services to the ratepayer. And yeah, I think we can do a better job. I think we're going to. I think that's the direction we're moving in, and I support that as well. I just wanted to add that in, that I think this organizational chart, organizational changes we're making are going to be critical, actually. And
All right. Thank you, Councillor Grant. Any other comments? No?
Done.
All right, so we'll call that to a vote.
Yep.
To accept the org chart and the CAO report on the approved organizational chart as presented. All those in favor?
All right.
So that is carried. So last section in the administrative matters is the roundtable, mayor and councillors. Let's go around the roundtable. I have one item, but I'll leave that for a minute. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to bring forward in the roundtable?
I do not.
Councillor Grant?
no, I actually said what I wanted to say there on that last item. So.
Right, Councillor Morton?
No, I don't.
Councillor, all right. The only item that I have to bring forward is just that there is a mayor's meeting on Castle Home on the 29th of May, so that'll be before our next council meeting. I will be attending, and Riel will be attending as the CAO. This particular meeting has been called by North Bay to present us with information before that information is made public. So we don't know what information is being presented, but this is still an ongoing issue for Calvin Township. We are not giving up. I guess is the one thing I just want to make clear, that regardless of what is announced, we'll keep working towards our position in Castle Home. There is a lot of information that we can share, and I'm sure I will put that in the next meeting's a package, so that you'll all have an opportunity to see what they've said or what they promised. I should tell you that I've spoken with Mayor Corriveau, and he's as committed. He is our representative on the Castle Home board. Just not to go into it in a long, drawn out thing, but just so that you do understand that since we did the Castle Home protest, there is one new long-term care home in Ontario. So there are now 627 long-term care homes in the province, and 58% of those homes are privately owned, and 24% are nonprofit or charitable homes, and 16% are municipal homes. But there are 6 homes that have a municipal board attached to them, and that's in the long end section of the Municipal Act. And one of those is Castle Home, with us and the other townships involved. The other 6, just as a matter of interest, is in Schedule 2, the Board of Management for the District of Kenora, which has Kenora, Dryden, and Ignis in it. Another one, which is the Board of Management in Manitoulin, which has Manitoulin, Gore Bay, Billings Township, etc. And another one is the Management District of Nipissing East, which is us, and includes Mattawa, South Algonquin, Calvin, Papineau Cameron, Bonfield, Chisholm, East Ferris, and the Township of Matawan. And then the next one is in Nipissing West, then one in Perry Sound East. And those are the only, I'm sorry, there's one more, Perry Sound West. Those are the only municipal board operated nursing homes. So they're operated in a different manner than the other 621 boards in the province. And I don't have any problem at all personally, and I'm sure no one on this council has, with the development of nursing homes. Please be aware that right now the waiting list for people to get into a nursing home is 40,000 people. So 40,000 people are on a waiting list to find a spot in a nursing home in Ontario right now. And on average, the wait time to get into a nursing home is 6 months. So it's not that we're protesting having nursing homes. And in fact, the opposite. I think, we need to develop more beds and more homes. But just the way that this particular setup and these other 6 municipal board homes are set up is maybe not as equitable as it might be. And that's what the whole issue is all about. I can't tell you what's going to happen with the meeting because I really don't know. But we will be attending on the 29th and we will report at the next council as to what's going on with Castle. So if there's nothing else from the roundtable, no, nothing?
Thank you very much for that report. It's also a very useful part of the agenda.
Right. I think we have to be aware of what's happening here for sure. All right, so then we will move on to the closed session. Council will discuss human resources matters pursuant to section 239(2)(b) to deal with personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, and pursuant to section 239(2)(d) labor relations or employee negotiations, both matters subject to advice of the solicitor, client privileged, including communications necessary for that purpose. So could I have a mover and a seconder? Moving Councillor Morton, Councillor Madsen, and all, any discussion? No, all right, all in favor? So that motion. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, folks.
Yes.
Good night.
I see wisdom and caution and professionalism.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah.